Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Jack Ma, people like these change the future. They create and innovate new industries that benefit all of us in some way. They are entrepreneurs. And we are SSE, Sydney School of Entrepreneurship, an independent not-for-profit that builds entrepreneurial thinking amongst a diverse community. Why? Because the future depends on cultivating this mindset across every sector of the economy and society. Interesting idea, hey?
SSE is an opportunity to find inspiration and know-how, both locally and globally. You could be learning alongside all sorts of people: doctors, engineers, agriculturalists, lawyers, designers, because from diversity comes the greatest breakthroughs. We're Sydney in name only. We're a partnership between 11 New South Wales universities and TAFE across the state, having launched thanks to cornerstone support by the New South Wales Government. Regardless of background, location or discipline, SSE is the destination for practical training, support and mentoring. We encourage our students to collaborate and network inside a diverse community environment.
This vision, membership, diversity and community are what make us SSE. And it's not a novel idea.
This is a tried and tested approach based on the Stockholm School of Entrepreneurship. To date, it's the world's most significant school of its kind, and Stockholm is second only to Silicon Valley for tech startups.
At SSE, we believe the success of all of us depends on dreams becoming goals, becoming real businesses, growing careers, towns, cities, regions, and societies. We are SSE, and you are most welcome to join us.
All right, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to SSE. It's really fantastic to welcome you this afternoon for this global series event. I'm Jonathan Jones, I'm the Education and Training Director here at SSE. And tonight we set the scene for a fireside chat between Pocket Sun, the CEO or co-founder of Sogal Ventures, and Raji Ambikaraja, CEO of Follow and SSE board member. Sogal Ventures is redefining the next generation of diverse founders and funders and is the first female-led millennial venture capital firm. In our promotion for tonight, we asked the question, some of you may have seen this across your social platforms, what does the future look like? And under that caption, under that question, we put a picture of Pocket. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing what the insights that Pocket brings tonight and hearing her thoughts on the future. And it's also great to welcome our colleagues from Women New South Wales who have collaborated with us on this event, as well as the team at StartCon who have been fantastic in helping us to bring Pocket Sun out to Sydney, and Pocket will be also presenting at StartCon tomorrow for those that have their tickets lined up and have an interest there. So Pocket, I understand you've flown overnight to be with us here, so we have set up a very relaxed fireside environment for you. We want to make it as different as we can from a bustling international terminal. So it's great to welcome you here to our campus. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet tonight, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be here with us this afternoon. For those that might be on their first visit to SSC, a little bit about us. We were founded in 2017 with cornerstone funding from the New South Wales Government. Our mission is to create a very diverse community of next generation entrepreneurs and to build high growth companies and job creation in New South Wales. In our first year of operation, we've hosted more than 100 activities and more than 4,000 people have moved through the doors, both here in our campus in Ultimo and within our member campuses at events held across the state of New South Wales. Very recently, we were awarded, and I'll read this one out because it's a bit of a tongue twister, the 2018 Outstanding Emerging Entrepreneurship Centre Award by the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centres. If anyone can say that 3 times, they'll win the Lucky Door Prize, which is a really great achievement for the SSE at this stage. And we went up against a really strong group of international universities, early centres in their first 5 years of operation. So it's a great endorsement and it's a great recognition of SSE and all who've contributed to our first year or so of operation. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. It's highly unlikely that our fire will catch on and spread anywhere else other than its containment lines. If it does, we will guide you out to the Jones Street Mall. So just keep an eye out for an SSE staff member. We'll walk with you and we'll congregate out there. The weather's nice, it's quite nice. We'll grab a plate of nibblies as we leave. If you're looking for restrooms, the gents is on the ground floor, just outside the entrance doors here. Ladies and accessible is up on the first floor, and that's via the staircase, and there's an elevator there as well. If you need anything throughout the afternoon, though, please just find a member of the SSE team and we'll be sure to help you out. That's enough from me. Very pleased to now welcome Pocket and Raji to the stage. Welcome, guys.
Hi, everyone. Would you guys like to move to this side? Because the camera is here and I'm supposed to look at it. So I also want to look at you guys. So
we can do a bit of a swivel as well. Thank you so much, Jonathan, and welcome everyone. Welcome Pocket. And thank you again to StartCon, to Women New South Wales and to SSE for hosting us. Pocket, I want to start by taking you back to pre-Silgal days.
Okay.
So can you take us through the choices, the moments, the decisions that you made from going from a corporate job to pursuing the mindset of pursuing an entrepreneurial VC pathway?
Yeah, so being an entrepreneur was never my plan. I was very comfortable with my corporate job. I was a marketer before, and that was actually I think the foundation of everything that I do today. So I actually pursued entrepreneurship at University of Southern California because I couldn't get a work visa in the US anymore. So I couldn't legally work in the US, and I decided to go to grad school. And the reason why I chose entrepreneurship and innovation wasn't because I was so passionate about it, I was so innovative. The fact was, I didn't have a lot of choices. I had to get admitted in like mid-May to enroll in August. And entrepreneurship was actually a very new major that was being offered at a grad school level at USC. So they were very generous with their scholarship offers as well. So that's how I ended up in this program. And the funny thing is, I think life gives you surprises in the most unexpected places. I was totally thinking about finishing the program in a year, go back to my corporate job, and climb up the ladder afterwards. But 2 months into the program, I just completely ditched that plan. I was like, no, not moving back to Chicago, not gonna do my corporate marketing job again, and I want to do something on my own. So that's how the entrepreneurship inspiration came about. It was mainly through the school program. So I'm sure you guys are doing important work too.
I mean, how did you take that inspiration into action while you were on the program?
Yeah, so what I learned the most in the program was the entrepreneurship process was mainly just about from 0 to 1. It's about starting something from scratch, and it could be a project, it could be a blog, it could be a school organization, and actually that's the humble beginning of SoGal. So the first problem that I encountered when I decided that I was going to become an entrepreneur was the fact that there were so few women around me. So we had a great number of awesome entrepreneur role models and VCs who came to my classroom, and week after week, month after month, it was all men. And at some point, I was like, I've had enough of this. And if I am not getting the role models that I want to see, I want to bring the role models for other women to see. And I also realized firsthand the power of getting exposure to entrepreneurship, because I didn't think that I was going to become an entrepreneur at all. So that's how SoGal started. I wanted to bring this peer-to-peer support community for young women to learn about entrepreneurship before they step out of campus to pursue their first job. And then it quickly grew. And yeah, that was the beginning.
I want to touch on what you just said about women. So to give everyone a bit of the context, globally, less than 2 to 3% of venture capital is given to female-led companies. And that's despite the fact that 80% of purchasing decisions, or consumer purchasing decisions, are made by women. And even in the top 100 venture capital firms globally, less than 7% are female partners. So, Pocket, can you talk us through how SoGal addresses these statistics and what are the kind of things that you do to that, to address them?
Yeah, I think I was really shocked when I first found out about these statistics. I thought, what I was experiencing was bad, but I didn't expect it to be bad everywhere, and that's just how things were. So when I realized that there was so little funding going to women, I thought there is this big opportunity, because in our SoGal community early on, there were already hundreds of very hardworking, very ambitious, very innovative women, but they were getting so much difficulty trying to secure funding. So at first I thought, could I be a bridge between the funding sources and women entrepreneurs? Because I thought there's no way I could get access to venture capital myself. But then another school program kind of changed me. I went to Stanford for this Insider's Guide to Silicon Valley investing program. And there, 50% of the program participants were actually women, because they had a 50% off scholarship for women who applied, because originally it was all men who applied for this program, and the program was led by a woman. So I got into the program because I said, look, I have no investment experience whatsoever, but I've been organizing this community and I know so many ambitious women who need funding and I want to get them funded and I want to come to this program to learn how. And I think they were interested in the diversity part of things and there weren't many people solving that problem. So during the program I met my business partner Elizabeth and we thought, you know, there's this huge opportunity that very few people or like nobody was addressing. And we saw the potential of these women entrepreneurs. And as we started to flesh out the idea, we started also making very tiny angel investments into startups that were already in the SoGal community and also people who we thought would fit the SoGal's investment thesis, even though we didn't even know what that would be at first. And in the beginning, we thought we were only going to invest in women founders. And then we realized that would be a problem in reverse. So we decided that we're going to focus on diversity instead of just gender. So through the fund, where we invest in early stage startups led by diverse teams, and the SoGal Foundation, which is a global community of now 37 different cities around the world, we're really redefining the next generation of entrepreneurs and investors.
I want to touch on what you said about diverse teams and sort of the values. You know, the SoGal website says that SoGal believes in the power of diversity, borderless business, and human-centric design. But the great ethos that you have is SoGal our investments paint the future picture of how we live, work, and stay healthy. Can you reflect on what that looks like and how that's grown over time?
Yeah, so there was a funny story. So in the beginning, this was always what we had in mind, but at first we didn't know how to describe it, how to put that into words. In the beginning, we were saying, we're investing in consumer technology, enterprise software, and digital healthcare. And people were like, what? How can you invest in so many different things? But in our minds, it has always been clear that we want to invest in the new generation of like pretty much how the younger generation would live their lives, how technologies are disrupting their lifestyle, their work style, and their health and wellness. So for example, we are investing in a lot of customization technology because we think that is the future of mass consumption. We think nowadays technology has advanced to a point where advanced manufacturing is possible, and 100% personalization is achievable through algorithms and artificial intelligence and big data. And this could actually save the modern consumer so much time in picking the right product for you, because I think as a woman, when we're making 80% of the consumption decisions, it takes so much of our brain power that we could be spending elsewhere, right? Like every day when we're doing that 15-minute of makeup, like we could be working on saving the world. So we invest in a bunch of companies that could really cater to the modern women, the modern millennials lifestyle. So we invested in companies that are like making customized hair care, companies that are your personal skincare consultant, so you don't have to go out to read every influencer's blog posts. And we invested in a baby toy company that is saving parents so much time by just presenting you the best things at the best time. So it's really about being more efficient and giving time back to women and to caretakers and to the diverse workforce. And when we say global borderless business, we really mean it, because nowadays startups are just blossoming everywhere. They're not just limited to one geography anymore. And what we realize is a lot of the undervalued opportunities are in, just not hotspots on the map. So for example, we don't want to invest in Silicon Valley. Like we haven't invested in Silicon Valley that much at all. We've done 60 investments between my business partner and me in the past 3 years. And very, very, very few are from Silicon Valley, because we just think those opportunities are so overpriced, and they could be pre-revenue, they could be pre-traction, and they're just asking for a very high valuation. Versus when you're investing in places like Sydney, or Singapore is becoming more expensive. Let's say like Austin, Connecticut, or like Ireland. So these places you can actually find a lot of really interesting companies with great metrics, but at a lower price. So we are really arbitraging on diversity per se. Like, we are arbitraging on underrepresented founders. We're arbitraging on less prominent geographies, and we're arbitraging on problems that are misunderstood. So a lot of the things that I just mentioned are not the mainstream VC's typical investment areas, but these are actually the problems that we need to solve on a daily basis. And if you can increase efficiency in these things, it just really improves the life quality.
One of the unique features of SoGal compared to other venture firms is the SoGal community itself. So I mean, everyone in this room, if you haven't already done it, go to iamsogal.com and sign up. This is over 50,000 entrepreneurs. You guys host events like SoGal Summit and SoGal Influencer Fest. This is a community of entrepreneurs and investors coming together and sharing ideas and concepts. What have you learned from this particular community that has helped shape the direction in which SoGal has gone?
Yeah, so our Sydney chapter lead, Ariel, is sitting right there. I'll say hi. So I think the SoGal community has become a real secret weapon for us. Most VC firms don't know how, or just don't have the incentives to build a global community platform the way that we have. And it actually has shaped SoGal Ventures in so many ways. So our community really serves multiple purposes. First of all, it's a great talent pool. As you all know, when you're starting a company, it's really, really difficult to hire the right people, and it's really difficult to hire diversely from day one. And my lesson learned was that if you are a company that was born diverse, then you stay diverse. Versus Facebook, Google, they can spend millions and millions every year to become more diverse, but if you didn't build the foundation right, then it's going to be really difficult and really costly. So we encourage our founders to, have a diverse team from the beginning. And if they don't, we actually have the backyard, for them to pick great talent from diverse backgrounds. So that's one. Another thing is it becomes this great deal playground, because in our global community, they have all been interacting with SoGal almost on a daily basis. A lot of our members see SoGal as their primary professional network. This is where they meet other entrepreneurs. This is where they get all the resources. This is where they get the information. So when they think about raising money, we come to mind first, and they want to reach out to us first. So we've been providing a lot of fundraising help. Sometimes if we're not investing, we introduce them to other people or give them some feedback. So that's been working out really well on building this reputation. And it's really, the community has been super helpful when we're doing due diligence. As I was saying, nowadays startups are super global. So last year we were investing in this beauty company called Winky Lux. And even though Winky Lux was only a year and a half old, it was already having presence in Southeast Asia, in Sydney, actually through Mecca, I think all over Australia. And they were also at Forever 21, at Urban Outfitters, Nordstrom, etc. So I was like, do they really have an international presence, or is that a lie? So I actually told Ariel, why don't you go to Mecca and check out where Winky Lux is placed? What do you think of their products? Can you try it and let me know what you think? So we really have these boots on the ground when we are doing really extensive and very local-based due diligence, and that is a source that other VC firms just don't have. And because we invest in the next generation, and our community is mainly all younger women entrepreneurs. So they contribute a lot in shaping our thinking around what the future looks like. What are they spending money on? What are they spending time on? How are they dealing with relationships, mental health, workplace, etc.? So we often do a lot of research firsthand with our community, asking them, what is your buying habits on so and so? And when we are interested in a certain company, we ask the community, what do you think? Would you buy something like this? Do you see anything in the local market that's similar? Do you think they have a good value proposition or not? And if they come to China or Sydney or New York, do you think you would be able to help them in some way? So we really mobilize the community in a way that's super valuable.
Are there any particular trends that you see the millennial demographic focusing on and pushing forward more so than any other demographic?
A lot. So one thing is, I think they are going international from very, very early on, which was not the case just like 5 years ago. So nowadays, a lot of our portfolio companies in their year 1 or 2, they're already spread out in different international markets. So that's something that we actively help them with. And what was the question again?
trends that millennials sort of tend to push forward or focus on.
Yeah, so one is they're starting the international expansion plan very, very early. And the second thing is, I think they integrate the social mission very well with the for-profit structure.
They care about impact.
So it used to be that people talk about corporate social responsibilities. I think that word is just going to disappear because that's just like so manufactured. It's like something additional that you do to get brownie points. But these days, I think it's really part of the young entrepreneur's DNA. Like if you see a new consumer brand coming out of New York or San Francisco, it's gotta be like cruelty-free, gluten-free, like plastic-free, and like minimal waste and sustainable in all different ways. And I think that's a great sign. So a lot of our companies have this social responsibility embedded in their business model, but it's not even a major selling point anymore. They just, they don't say, oh, we pay fair trade prices to argan oil producers in Morocco. Like, it's just something that they do.
It's just they do it.
So I think that's a really great change. And a third thing is, I think the community focus is really, really prominent now. In China, you already see this huge red ocean now of social commerce, meaning everyone could be an affiliate, because in the future, purchases will be mainly based on person-to-person recommendations. And if people believe in me, like having a certain lifestyle, having a certain standards in things that I do, the life that I live, then I could recommend to them a lot of different things. So I'm witnessing really significant changes in China this year. I've seen so many young women simply by posting stuff and galvanizing her friend circle on like WeChat, for example, they're making millions and millions like in revenue just by selling stuff or like recommending stuff to friends. And it's like everyone could be a KOL in that way, key opinion leader. So I think for any brand starting out, it's really essential, even when you're doing a blockchain company, like it's really essential to build a community around it and generate word of mouth and make sure that people are actively participating and they love you, they are engaged, and they want to talk about you. I think that's becoming more and more powerful.
I want to talk a bit more about investment and your thoughts on the Australian tech ecosystem. But before I do that, I'd like to open it up to questions. If anyone has any questions on what Pocket has discussed so far, we've got some microphones around, so please just make sure that the microphone comes to you before you ask your question, and let us know your name and where you're from, and we'll go from there.
So my name's Victor, I'm from Sydney, and I have my own consultancy. My question is, do you guys also fund consulting agencies? Do they have to have like a proven customer base, or how do you do it in terms of consultancies?
So consultancies aren't really a venture backable
Yes.
business model.
Mhm.
So I think consultancy is really based on human power.
Yep.
So it's really hard to scale. Like the bigger you become, the more people you have to hire. Versus if you're investing in software, for example, whether 10,000 people or 100,000 people are using it, like your marginal cost isn't really that high. So that's the kind of scalability that we're looking for when we're investing as venture capitalists.
I've just
Yeah.
got one final question now. With the, with the software, does it have to be already a prototype, or it could be an idea, or what?
Yeah, so we do early stage investing, or like seed stage, mostly prior to Series A. The interesting thing is, though, because we're investing in underrepresented founders most of the time, we actually have the luxury of seeing so much more traction than than an average seed stage company. So for example, the beauty company that we invested in last year, they were already doing $5 million in revenue last year.
Yeah, wow.
And this year they're growing to be like $15 million in revenue. So it's insane. So we almost never have to invest in an idea, and we probably wouldn't do that, because when you have, comparison between companies that have real tractions already, have real metrics already, have real revenue and profits already, of course you're gonna, go for that if they have a big enough growth potential. So yeah, but I think the Silicon Valley people do invest in ideas a lot. And I think if you are a serial entrepreneur with previous success, that is also easier. Sometimes these entrepreneurs could raise a lot of money just based on an idea and an early team. So it really depends on what it is.
Stan, appreciate it, thanks.
Yeah.
We'll take one more question here and then we'll carry on.
Okay.
My name's Armagan. I'm from Sydney. I was just wondering what tangible, actual key steps did you take to build your community at first? Like what led you to have such a successful community?
I think building a community, there are several things. When I started, I think what made us successful was the fact that there wasn't much, there wasn't a lot that was that was similar to what we were doing. There were other women's organizations, but they were mainly they were not focusing on the college students. They were not focusing on the young professionals. They were more focused on, women in PR, or women in writing, freelancing, and their events are going to the new products launch at Prada or something. And so that's the red carpety vibe was not tech or startup or innovation focused. And then there were a lot of startup organizations which were just so male focused, and they were just so growth hacking all day long. It's all about hackathons, and so there wasn't anything in between that was catering to this specific group. And so very early on, our events were really well received. People were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! I couldn't believe there wasn't anything like this before." So it was really quickly that we realized that there was a product market fit. So you are actually serving a group of people with what they need the most. And I think you will sense that very quickly if it is the right thing. But if it doesn't catch traction early on, I think you need to just either move to a more focused vertical, or you could just, pour your heart and soul into it and make sure that everyone in your community is, empowered in a way by this community. You have to somehow, inject energy into this group, make them feel that they are now capable of things that they didn't think of before because of this community. You need to make them feel like everyone is, they are selected to be in this group. They're not just, random people from the street. They are here because they are similar and they have similar goals and they're getting there together. I think that's really, really important.
I mean, every investor has hundreds of deals that land on their desk every day and invest in probably less than 1% of them. What investment strategies, beyond looking at the vision, the values of the company, what investment strategies do you look at to determine whether a company is the right fit for SoGal's portfolio?
Yeah, so through running communities and through, like the studying of different industries, especially in the verticals that we're interested in, we have our own like roadmap of what the business world will look like in the next 10 years. So we're really like playing, like re-engineering the investment process. We're kind of like outlooking the future and then reverse the thought process to think what need to exist now to make that happen.
To make it happen.
I think the privilege of starting your own VC firm is that you really get to invest in things that are valuable to you, that are important to you. So we don't want to invest in just another like food delivery company that is not, doing the world much good beyond raising the advertising prices between competitors. We want to invest in things that are really making a difference and are either first to market or are just, really innovative in their own right. So like there are certain things that we've been looking for on the radar. Like, so for example, we really want to invest in companies that are tackling elderly care, for example, or we want to invest in companies that are celebrating like women's menopause. We want to invest in companies that are really inclusive. So for example, they call it plus size women's apparel, but I really think it's, normal size, inclusive sizing for humans' clothes, or unisex clothing, or, just, things that make the world a little bit better. So we really could select the problems that we want to fund. Because after you invest, you want to work with these entrepreneurs all the time and help them succeed. So it's really important for us that we actually care about the problem they're trying to solve. So we've invested in companies that are changing cancer diagnosis forever. Like they're using artificial intelligence to be a lot more accurate than the human eye, and they're able to kind of dig up all the little cancer cell images that were physically stored in, a basement somewhere, and they're now aggregating all that data and enable much better pathology for healthcare. So it's really about, like, do we think this is a problem worth solving? Can we add value to this? And do we think these are the right people solving the problem? And we usually ask the community too, like, do you think this is a good idea? Do you like their products? And we're usually very avid users of our portfolio company's products. So I wear my portfolio company, I do my whole face thing, hair thing with my portfolio companies, and I recommend our products to like everyone that is relevant. So it really has to have that effect to make me feel like, yeah, my community is gonna love this. I know there is a target market for this, and I could help link the consumers or the customers to the company. So there are so many things that go into the considerations.
One of the questions that often comes up in the Australian tech ecosystem is, do I have to be technical in order to be a tech CEO or a venture capitalist? Do I have to have studied engineering or have done a science major? In all the companies that you've invested in, I think well over 50 startups by now, what are the skills and attributes that you think it takes to make a great CEO or a great tech VC?
Yeah, so we've had different hypotheses around this. But the short answer is no, you don't have to be technical to have a tech startup or to be the CEO of a tech startup. Because, the CTO could handle that job. And sometimes the best CTO isn't the best CEO material. And I think being a CEO, there are three most important things that you need to accomplish. One is make sure that your company does not run out of money. This is really the number one dying cause of startups. So as a CEO, it's really, really, really important to make sure that you're raising money or you're generating cash flow, you're carefully watching operations so that the company is gonna, survive. So that's number one. Number two is you have to hire the best people for the job. You have to be able to attract talent to work with you, and that is very difficult. Sometimes the startup war is the talent war. And number three is you have to make sure you're able to sell your products and services. So all three things actually come down to one thing, and that is salesmanship. So that's why in the beginning I was saying marketing was actually the foundation of everything that I do.
Sure.
Because when we pick portfolio companies, we realize that unfortunately, the founders that are really good at selling, that are really good at telling the story, and are really good at just gathering great people around them, usually are growing fastest. Yeah, that's almost the cornerstone of a successful company.
Being a great CEO.
Yeah.
Another question that often comes up is, how do I find a great co-founder? Your co-founder, Elizabeth, you mentioned that you guys had met when you were on a program together.
Yeah.
How has your relationship evolved over the years? Like, how do your strengths complement each other? How do you guys work together?
Yeah, so the cool thing is Elizabeth and I grew up in very, very different environments. She grew up in Florida as a white Jewish girl, and I grew up in Shandong province where Confucius is from. So there are some similarities between, strict parents and, all these different traditions and rules you have to stick to. But other than that, we are really, really different, and that makes us a really great pair. I'd say we've had really great luck with finding business partners. We both really appreciate each other. We think we each have something that the other person doesn't have. So this kind of mutual appreciation really drives the relationship forward. I think another key is to have a human-to-human connection, because admit it, modern people spend so much time in the workplace, and she talks to me more than she talks to her husband on a daily basis. So when you think about it, it's really important that you actually care about each other as human beings. And when we started the co-founder relationship, she was in New York and I was in LA. And very soon after that, I moved to Singapore, which is like 28 hours away on a plane from New York. But in this situation, we were still able to, be best buddies, and we are just communicating all the time thanks to technology. And we are really able to achieve double the amount of work if we were sitting in the same office together all day long. So I think having this trust is very important, knowing that you're both working on the same vision and making clear, what are your differences? If you have slight difference in goals, that's fine as long as you define them. What's not cool is when you have, hidden motivations that the other person isn't aware of. That usually causes a lot of breakups. I also think the relationship around money is very, very important. How two people or three people spend money differently could be a huge issue.
Can you test that? Or is it just trial and see how it goes?
I think the relationship should be tested in a monetary way very early on.
Yeah.
So, for example, we hosted a pretty major event together remotely as a team. And we had our first argument after the event because we invested in this open bar thinking all the hackathon participants were gonna enjoy it and relax on a Saturday evening. Turned out they were so tired and they all went home, and we kind of wasted, I can't remember, I think we paid $2,000 on it. And I was super scrappy, and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And she but through that, we were able to kind of figure out, okay, this is your money style and this is mine. Is there a happy median, and can we, go forward with from there? So this is very telling. And in the beginning, people were all working hard. There wasn't any salary. We haven't paid ourselves much at all. So the conflict doesn't arise when there is not any money. But when there is money, and when there is, fame or reputation or like public appearances related. If two people are both very outgoing and they want to shine on stage, then you need to make sure that you give each other the stage time and you give each other, you know, the good feelings of being recognized and getting awards.
Yeah.
So I think
Backing each other.
yeah, in 2015, I got on Forbes 30 Under 30 and was selected to be on the cover of Forbes. I didn't expect that at all, but of course it brought me a lot of attention when she was doing all the hard work in the background without the same level of recognition. So I made sure that, you know, she got into the US Forbes 30 Under 30, and we made sure that, you know, we each had public appearances, because, you know, it's important. You need to feel good about this relationship and be really real.
I think you've touched on a really important point about sharing your successes.
Yeah.
And that often, and I've seen it a lot in co-founder relationships, where one might shine in a way of more so than the other, not because of the amount of work, but just sometimes by luck and sometimes just by where they happen to be.
Yeah.
And that fact that you take the initiative to sort of share that out
Yeah.
says a lot about your ethos.
Yeah, I also think good co-founders don't necessarily need to be like childhood friends, high school
Yeah.
friends, or someone you've known for a long time. That doesn't always work. So before me, my business partner had another like social venture with her best friend growing up. That didn't last long.
Yeah.
Whereas I met her in this Stanford program. We were like in a classroom together, just getting to know each other very slowly in like 2 weeks. And then we started this long distance relationship. But surprisingly, everything just, you know, went so well. And we became inseparable in the process.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's, you know, luck, and it's having, like, turn on all your senses to judge whether this is a good relationship. Do you
Yeah.
feel good about it?
I've got my last question before I open it up to everyone in the audience again. Michelle Obama has recently released her biography, Becoming, and she has a great quote in it where she comments on failure and fear. And she says, "Failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. It's vulnerability that breeds with self-doubt, and then it's escalated often deliberately by fear." The concept of celebrating startup failure is still, Australia is still coming to terms with that. I mean, I know the US wear failure as a badge of honor often. What have you seen in either the startups that you've invested in or in just other relationships across the investment community around failure that you have learned from, or that you have managed to grow your business and your own ethos from?
Yeah, failure is, I don't even know what it is. I mean, like, what is a failure, really? You lost your money? Like,
Well, I think that the fact that you say that question is great because it means that you take it as learning.
yeah, I mean, like, one of the first lessons I learned in entrepreneurship was that as long as you don't die, anything is possible. And there isn't failure, is just, you know, pivoting per se. But
Yeah.
the truth is, pivoting is difficult. You don't set out your business to pivot,
Yeah.
because pivot is really painful and it takes a lot of energy. It's like you're starting all over again. And actually, like, young startups aren't made to do hard pivots because you're pretty much starting a brand new company all over again.
Correct.
But I do think entrepreneurship is the fastest way to growth. And I think if you value that enough, you wouldn't consider yourself a failure at all, no matter what happens. And recently I learned this difference between being fearless versus being brave. So a lot of our, you know, negative feelings come from our fear. But bravery doesn't necessarily mean that you are conquering fear. Like, that means you are still in the presence of fear. You still have fear. You just refuse to let fear dominate your actions. Whereas being fearless is like you almost don't recognize the presence of fear. You just think, you know, everything is love, you know, existence is wonderful on its own, and the outcome becomes less important. What's important is the process, whether you grew, whether you did something meaningful, did you solve an interesting problem, and do you think it's worth it, right? And I think it's really less about how much, well, it's really important how much money you make, because that kind of dictates on how much, financial impact you can make in the world, and whether you have the financial ability to help others, for example. But I do think, I don't know, I haven't really failed, so I don't know if my lesson is valid here. But many times in the process of setting up SoGal, my business partner and I would have self-doubts. We would be like, okay, are we raising enough money for our venture? Are we being too slow? Are we being caught up by other people? Are we being competed out by the new entrants? And are we growing fast enough? But I think what's really important is feeling good about yourself. And there's always a reason to say, it's perfect. Everything is perfect. Where we are is perfect, because you can always get out of it, and you can always just start and
find a way to
you can always build on that and just accept where you are and be happy about it, and recognize how you've grown. I think that's difficult, but that's something we've always tried to do.
And important to be able to be part of life's journey, whether it be professional or personal, to use failure or fear as a learning tool. Let me open it up again to questions. If anyone has any questions from the audience, just raise your hand. This lady here.
Hi. So what's your average investment that you guys do? What's the amount when you're pre-seed or seed?
Yeah, so we usually do anywhere between 50,000 to 350,000 USD. And we reserve part of the fund for follow-on investments. So if there are really great performers in the portfolio, we will invest more in their next round of financing.
Hi, Pocket. Thanks so much. Chris Lewis from the Sydney School of Entrepreneurship. So I haven't had to come too far. Thank you for coming to us. In terms of your, I was curious as to where your money comes from, the investment. Where does your money that you invest come from? So the other end, I suppose, of what you're trying to do. Yeah. Does it come from people within your that community? Does it come from, I guess, more mainstream VC organisations who like you because they might see you as a bit more niche-y, I suppose, and they want to diversify? I was just curious if you had some comment on that, and what sort of battles do you have to bring that money in?
Yeah, so actually that's the most difficult part, right? So when we went out to raise money for our fund, because neither Elizabeth or me come from super wealthy families that just have a checkbook for us to deploy. So the biggest challenge for us was to raise money. So far we've had about 42 different entities, individuals investing in our fund, and they're from anywhere from the US, Europe, China, Singapore, and we have this super diverse, we call them LPs, LP base. So what's really amazing is that we have LPs as young as 18 years old, of course with their parents' blessing, but 70% of our LPs are women, which is what we're really, really proud of. And yes, we have LPs from our community. Some of our chapter leads who have been involved with the community became LPs in our fund. We have a lot of serial entrepreneurs who have joined the fund, including, I don't know how well known they are in Australia, but the founder of the CEO of Bare Minerals, and the founder of Blue Mercury, which is similar to Sephora in the US. And we have the group president of Princess Cruises, and a bunch of just really stellar individuals who care about this mission or have daughters, as simple as that. And we have VCs who were a partner at the best performing VC firm in Europe They see us as additional deal source because they don't see the kind of deals that we see, and they don't have the kind of insights into like young millennials and women. So they see us as a good addition. And then we have family offices, and we are recently bringing on a really big name in the Fortune 100 world. So we're super excited to announce that too.
Great. Any other questions over here?
Hi, I'm Lisa. Hi. I really liked your answer before about managing relationship with your co-founder. What are your tips for managing relationship with investors?
With investors, from an entrepreneur's perspective, before they invest in you or after they invest?
Once they've come on board.
Once they've come on board, okay. I'd say use them as much as possible. Like, we want to be used. Because that's what we call value add portfolio services. And we want to show future LPs that, hey, we're actually helping our portfolio companies. So always raise your hand. Like, I think a great way is to send out updates. It doesn't have to be monthly. We have some really disciplined entrepreneurs who send us monthly updates, and they are actually the best performing ones in our portfolio. So it's a great sign to send like timely or like just regular updates to let the investors be in the know. I think we really appreciate that, and always have a call to action in your communications. So if you're looking for new investors, or you're looking for partners in a specific sector, or you're looking for hiring a great CMO or whatnot, always bring that up so that investors know how to help you. I think investors don't always need to know the most detailed financials. They definitely want to know when you're running out of money, and they need to be prepared whether they have follow-on funding for you or not. And they want to make sure that you don't die because of cash flow, and they want to kind of prevent the problem from happening instead of being too late to the game. So I think it's important to keep the communications open. For us, it's a little different because we are mostly, at the same age or younger than our portfolio founders. So a lot of times they see us as their closest allies. They feel like we are, we have a really friendly, very easy to access kind of relationship. So whenever shit happens, they talk to us first instead of talking to other, really serious like board members, because we are just more, we're going to give advice from a more like peer-to-peer kind of perspective. And we're always, we have this holistic approach. We don't want to only care about your numbers. We care about your well-being. We want you to be, like healthy physically and spiritually, and we want you to feel your best. Sometimes we offer our founders like, do you want to, we can treat you to a spa treatment, or you want to go for horse riding or whatever to take your stress off, because in the end, it's your founders who are making you money. And you need to make sure that they're in it for the long run. You can't let them burn out too quickly. So that is really in our best interest. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable with your investors. And of course, some investors are not like us. Like, they're going to be just like really pushy or really on you all the time, but find a few that are really on your side, that you feel that you could talk to.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Over here.
Oh, just to add to that, I think it's worth it to take someone's smaller check if you think they are gonna be more helpful emotionally that way, because sometimes not like the big checks might not be the most helpful or the most close to you and make you feel good.
Hi, I'm Nivedya from SSC. My question was, how do you strike a balance between making a world a bit better versus your financial metrics while selecting a venture to invest on in your portfolio?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing is nowadays there is no compromise between the profitability part and the social vision part. So I actually think the best kind of social corporations should be the ones that could be sustainable on their own. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to be really creative about having a sustainable, profitable, long-term business model to fuel the social mission. So, for example, instead of just, like advocating for it or raising money for it, instead you could maybe like create a product that people would love to buy in the first place, maybe without even caring about the social mission. And you're just, creating social impact as a byproduct, right? So, for example, we don't go out there and say we're an impact investing fund. But the truth is we are creating so many new jobs, and we are getting the minority founders funding, and that is really impactful. But we're going to be super profitable and making a ton of money too, because these are undervalued gold mines that other people aren't digging. So you're making money in the process, you're doing good for the world, you are investing in problems that you want to see solved. So it's like, win, 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 win all around. I think that's the best solution going forward.
I think Pocket's going to be with us for a little while longer as we have drinks and canapes outside. So can I ask you all to please join me in a round of applause to thank her for your Thank you again to SSE, to StarCon, and to Women New South Wales for hosting this event. And I encourage all of you to make sure you get some time with Pocket as we head outside for some drinks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to turn.
Which one suits better? Oh, yeah, on the wall. Okay. Follow Martha. Lovely to meet you.
The prospect.